life in color. Everything around me looks so beautiful and sweet.
Mental health conditions happen mainly because of the way you process information. And my system just started shutting down. There were moments where I was stuck in bed for a week. But once you hit rock bottom, the only way is up. So here we are. It's taken a while for me to be comfortable sharing my story in terms of my mental health. It's not the easiest thing. It really is not. But for some reason, the more I speak on it, the more I feel like I'm letting go of the control it has over me. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I've struggled with mental health issues, mainly depression and anxiety. Many of you might be like, what happened? Why are you depressed? Did you have a horrible childhood? I didn't actually. I didn't have a horrible childhood. I had a wonderful childhood. You know, my parents did the best that they could. There was no abuse, well, other than the casual, African abuse where, you mess up and they give you a little tap. But no, that wasn't a reason at all. I think the biggest reason was maybe the way in which my brain chose to process things. Mental health conditions happen mainly because of the way you process information. We're constantly going through trauma. Anything can be trauma. The day you're born, that's traumatic for your body. When you give birth, that's traumatic for your body. All the way to hitting your foot, that can be traumatic. To seeing, I don't know, so many things can be traumatic, but a lot of things we don't really consider it. Our brain just says, oof, okay, oh, I'm hot. Ugh. Yeah, I put this on earlier because I felt cold, but now, no. Anyways, so our brains process all these little things. Sometimes it's something big enough to process. Sometimes it's like, nah, this is just information, whatever. So in my case, the processing started to become a little complex. And the biggest reason is because I wasn't taught how to process information. So yeah, I grew up in a decent home. Thing is though, I didn't grow up in one specific spot. I moved a lot growing up. And some may say that that's a privilege. Now that I'm older, I'm like, yeah, that's a privilege. You know what I'm saying? But to a young person who just wants stability, who has just met their friends, and all of a sudden you're getting up and you're going somewhere else, and it becomes like, who am I? Where am I? What's consistent and what's not consistent? There's a time where, by like the third time we moved, and that includes schools. I was in 10 schools my whole life. From French and English, French. So 10 different schools, because I was constantly moving and I was constantly changing something. And eventually, at some point, I just stopped crying about it. When you leave and you're just like, oh my God, my friends, I'm gonna miss my friends. I kind of just stopped doing that. I was kind of like, I know I'm always gonna leave. I know I'm not gonna stay here for a long time. So that's one thing that has been constant in my mind. I'll explain how that could have affected me later. Another thing that affected me was culture shock. Culture shock definitely, especially moving to the United States of America. It was a great opportunity. I managed to get an accent, I guess. I know, but my education was there and everything. But before I went to the United States, being black was not something I thought of at all, because I was mainly in African countries other than Belgium, but I was young, so I wasn't really putting my race into context, you know, or like thinking about it. But when I moved to the United States of America, the first few years I was still living in a bubble. Like, it was not that big of a deal. But later on, especially my college days, I started to see things like small microaggressions, you know, microaggressions, like it's something that it's such a small comment that someone gives, or such a small action, but then it happens over and over, or multiple different times, and all of a sudden it starts to hit you. You know, it's like little punches, but you keep punching and then eventually it hurts. I don't know if that makes sense. So yeah, I think by college all of it started to hit me. I remember I was with some friends. Mind you, I went to a university that was predominantly white. But there were some black people as well. Shout out to my homies, black and white. So yeah, I was with these three friends of mine, all blonde hair, blue-eyed, beautiful. They were wonderful friends to me, you know, so I didn't really think anything of it because they didn't have anything to do with it. But we went to a club. Yes, I went to the club when I was in college. We all do that. Anyways. And fair enough, we had a bit to drink before, you know, when you pre-game. But we'd all had a drink. You know, I remember one of my friends in particular was wasted. Like, they needed to like hold her to get there, you know? But when I got there, they said, no, you can't come in. I was like, why? I'm with my friends. And they're like, no, you're too drunk. Mind you, my friend was drunkhead. I was like, how, you? But as a graceful, or as the graceful person that I am, I kept my shit together. And I said, okay, well, I came here to drink. Is that a problem? And then they're like, are you giving us attitude? I was like, oh, I'm sorry. You know what, let me go to the bodega over there and I'll just sober up and then I'll come back. The guy ignored me. He just, all right. I go to the bodega, bro. I drink water, everything, and I was so happy to go to this bar. I get back and he's like, sorry, no, you can't enter. I was like, I'm sober. I am sober. I've literally taken all the alcohol out of my system. I am sober. Now, you know, I'm starting to get, so I'm just kind of like, what? And I'm seeing people going 1, 2, 3, 4. What the hell's going on? And now I'm getting pissed. You know, and I was like, yo, come on. That's kind of not fair. You know, I'm not as drunk as that girl before you. So it's insane to me that you're gonna let me, I need to know a reason, like a valid reason, because that can't be the reason. There's multiple people on this line that are going that are even drunker than me, and you're letting them go. All of a sudden he says, do you want me to call the police? What? In the United States of America, the word police is triggering to all people of color in that place. I never knew how triggering it was until I went to the United States. Because, you know, here in Rwanda, I mean, yeah, our police people, they're tough. You know, they zero corruption. Like, you are not gonna go behind them or whatever. They're gonna enforce the laws. But the difference is, they're not, first of all, they don't own guns. Number one. Or do they? No, they don't. It's the military people, right? Yeah, no. I've never seen a police officer using his gun. Ever in my life. Do you know what I'm saying? Second of all, I've seen in multiple cases where they see someone who is drunk on the road or someone who is having an issue and they stop and they talk and they ask, how can we help you? You know, even when like there's tough situations, it's really, they're doing their job, but they're not going beyond that. It's not like you're about to pick something in your pocket and all of a sudden they shoot you. You feel me? And so those were the things. Those were the major things that I feel personally growing up affected me. You know, there are other things, but to be honest, things I remember I don't think I want to talk about, to be honest. So I'm not going to go into that. I'm sorry. But I will stick to these things. So when I was my symptoms started when I was 16 years old. The reason I believe it was then is because that's when I started sleeping a lot. You know, I started sleeping a lot. You know, I come from class, fall asleep. I come from, I fall asleep, just zero energy. You know, that's also when I started drinking, guys. It's the truth. It's the truth. In Rwanda, we tend to start early, and it's not right. I'm sorry, it's not right. Yeah, but I started early, so if I ever felt sad or whatever, I feel like I had distractions, my friends, drinking, da da da, it's fine. Then I went to college, like I mentioned, and that's where like everything just came and whoop, hit me on my face. Whoop. And my system just started shutting down. All right? I remember this was my second year of college. I honestly, shout out to my friends who were there for me, but if any of you guys are watching this, I just want you to know that I was barely there in college. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I was barely present. Every time, it's like I was living in anxiety all the time. All the time. And I don't even know how I don't know how my friends from college remember me, but what I remember is that I always felt like at any moment something was gonna go wrong, you know? And so I started like kind of isolating a bit, less and less, seeing people less and less and less. I was constantly in my room. Either it was school or it was going to my room. And I was like, listen, if there's one thing I'm not gonna do, I was like, I don't have energy for anything else. All right? I don't have energy for anything else. But if I can just graduate, if I could just use my energy to graduate, that would be enough. So that's how I managed to get through college. The only thing that was motivating me was to graduate. So yeah, that was the only thing holding me together, graduating. After graduating, I decided to stay in the US for some time, 6 months exactly, to be exact. And around that year is when I started losing a lot of weight. A lot of weight. I went from 120 something pounds to 100 and I don't know, I forgot how to count it. Let's say 100 and you know, I was so skinny. Like I was so skinny and I didn't even realize it. I didn't realize it. I'm better now. People keep telling me, Amanda, you're skinny. I'm like, you've not seen skinny. This is my body healing from back then. You've not seen skinny. So like I'm getting better now. But yeah, I went to New York for some time, but I was actually numb. I was numbing myself. I was doing a couple jobs over there, but I'd come back, I wouldn't eat, or if I would eat, I'd have to be under the influence to eat. And my mom one day, she just came and she was like, you're not living. You know, she's like, you're not living. This is not life. But to me, I was like, yeah, no, I'm gonna just focus on the grind. I'm gonna focus on the grind and focus on the grind. Then I'll be happy. You know what I'm saying? Because America has the opportunity, so I'm just gonna focus on it. But I didn't know how much I was suffocating. Because sometimes you can just be in your struggle so much that you don't even realize you're struggling. And yeah, so she said, listen, let's go. She took me to Mauritius. That's where she was staying at the time. Now, when I went to Mauritius, it was a different environment. It's not New York where it's busy, loud, things are moving fast, constant, like, hey. No, it was chill. Nice breeze, you know, nice views, all that stuff. But tell me how in that space is where I hit my rock bottom. You thought that was rock bottom that I was telling you about? No, that was me trying to pull myself together. That was me holding to some strings, at least strings of school, strings of I'm gonna be famous, strings of I don't know, just strings, something holding me, you know. But when I went to Mauritius, especially during COVID, you guys, that's when the suicidal thoughts started. Yep, that's when the suicidal thoughts started. It was things like, if a car comes and hits me, well, I remember having one of those thoughts in college, but it wasn't like recurring, you know, it was just like a small thought, and I was like, oh, stop it. You know, but in Mauritius, during COVID, there were moments where I was stuck in bed for a week. Like I was not leaving my bedroom. Even to go to the toilet was hard. Have you guys, I don't know if any of you have ever watched Euphoria, but there's a scene where Zendaya is just kind of like crawling or trying to go to the bathroom because her, you know, it's hurting her. Okay, I was not like that bad, but I understood what she was saying because I was in pain. I was like, Amanda, just get up and go to the bathroom. Just get up. And then I'd force myself to go to the bathroom. You know, I was forcing. I was like, I promise you, Amanda, just going to the bathroom and then you'll come back. But I was in bed for a whole week, you guys. Anyways, but once you hit rock bottom, the only way is up. The only way is up. I remember I spoke to my brother about it, and I was like, my guy, I don't know what's going on. My mind is starting to go in dark places. I'm starting to think, you know, I'm starting to have suicidal thoughts. I'm starting to feel like I'm useless, but like I'd always thought useless, but now it's like, would anyone care if I was still alive? You know, those kinds of thoughts. Like really, what do you contribute to society? Oof, maybe it would even be easier if you're gone. You know, thoughts like that started to come, but I was something in me that was fighting, and I'm so grateful for that fight in me. I'm so grateful. So I spoke to my brother and I told him, and he said, yo, go talk to mom about this, like ASAP, Rocky, go talk. And I didn't know, because during that time my mom didn't even know what the hell was going on. She just thought I was being stubborn or lazy or whatever, and that's not her fault. I hadn't explained to her what was happening. I was kind of like shutting the door and I was like, leave, da, da, da. You know, I was actually a pretty horrible person during that time. So shout out to you, mom, for handling all of that. And so I told her about it, and I finally felt like, oof, I'm letting go of something. And I appreciate the way she handled it. You know, she went into research, she went into understanding, she went to ask people questions. My guy, she did the best that she could. And if it weren't for her and the support of my family, I promise you I wouldn't be here today. About to get a bit emotional. So thank you to them. That's when the journey to getting better started. That's when I slowly started to go seek therapy here and there, but like really, you know, I tried it a bit in the US, but it wasn't like everything in the US was just dabbing here and there, but in Mauritius, that's where like everything became concrete. You know, I don't know how to explain it, but that's where like there was some intention behind both of it, the depression and the healing, you know. So yeah, I started going. The first one I didn't like. Second one, nothing. Third one, nothing. At some point, I was like, you know what? I can just do this myself. I can really just handle this myself. You know, now I know what mental health is about. Now I know that and I said it out loud. I was like, I'm depressed. Before I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it. But I said it. I was like, I'm depressed. And the only way to handle something like this is to recognize it so you can find a solution. So yeah, I did the best that I could with what I had or what I thought I needed. Slowly but surely, I started feeling better. Then I came to Rwanda.